fans, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Javelina Coaches Show here during the 2021-22 season. I'm your host, Mark and Sarah. Thank you so much for tuning in for another week, coming to you from Macaulay Hall, and we're joined by guest number 1. That is our head Javelina volleyball coach, Tanya Allen. Hello, Coach.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
Coach, and obviously for you guys, was a difficult week on the road against Angelo and against Lubbock. What was your general message to your team after Saturday's match?
You know, that's two very good teams. But our general message was just we gave away too many points. We didn't make them earn it at all. We just handed them so many unforced errors, so many free points. And I think our, being error prone, it kind of rolled over from set to set because we kind of just got into a slump and they couldn't really dig their way out of it. So I think they faced a challenge. It was their first time really playing on the road with that many fans and a light show and all kinds of stuff that was a little bit intimidating for some of our younger kids, I think. And we just basically said we have to get better. We have to go back. We got to grind come practice time on Monday.
One of the hallmarks usually of a good team is that they have people who take accountability. They don't win all the time, but everyone holds themselves accountable. If people are pointing fingers and blaming everybody else, it doesn't usually work for a team. Do you feel like your players did a good job handling these two losses from an accountability standpoint? I
think so. I think everybody took ownership over it. I think that's what makes this team special. It didn't matter, who had good stats and who had bad stats. We didn't get a win, so I think everybody understands from that point on, we all have to get better, because even if your stats were good wasn't good enough, so we've got to be great. And they all seem to be embracing that.
And were you happy with the attitude your team when you guys got back, when the attitude your team had, when you guys got back to practice? Do you feel like they came in ready to go and try and get better again? Yeah,
they weren't acting defeated. I mean, it wasn't like it was a change in MO completely. They definitely looked like we're ready to get better. They were really receptive to what we were saying. They knew we were going to be hard on them because we really got to make a push right now. And every single one of them seemed good about it, positive about it. They were really trying to make the changes that we're asking them to make.
And in spite of it was a tough week for your team, my opinion, I thought Nicole Murph had 2 excellent matches, and she's still the conference leader in digs, but even by a wider margin than she was last week. How much does the stability she's provided at the libero spot help you guys?
Yeah, stability is a good word. She's a constant for us. She's very good, all aspects of her position she's very good at, and she had a good weekend, and she's one of those kids where I have to look her dead in the eye and say it wasn't good enough, we didn't win, even though her numbers are through the roof and exceptional. We didn't get the win, so there's something more that she's going to have to do to help her teammates out to be better so that we can get that win. And I think that's one of the reasons why she is so good and why she's improved so much in the last 3 years, is because she does take that well. I mean, you can look at her and go, wasn't good enough. You had 8 digs a set, you could probably had 9, and she takes it and works harder. And I hope she knows we believe in her and we think she's really great, but also we just keep pushing her and she keeps receiving it, so then we want to do it more because, I mean, how good can she be? We don't know. We'll keep pushing.
The fact that you and your coaches have held your players to such a high standard, do you feel like that breeds competitiveness or the desire to get better? Do you feel like your players hold themselves to a high standard because of the standards you guys have for your student athletes?
Yeah, I think they all have high standards. I think we kind of, as coaching staff, have to walk a fine line because you don't want to break them down. You don't want them to completely give up on themselves, like, oh, it's never good enough, or oh. And so you kind of have to make sure they know it is good enough, but we know you're capable of more, so we're going to, it's a compliment that we're pushing you. You got to feel good about that. The more we push you, the more we believe in you. And, it's not that we're, talking bad about what you did before. It's just, I know you're capable of this much more. And so we definitely want them to be positive about the growth and be positive about us pushing them. And some kids it's harder than others. I mean, Nicole takes it fairly well, but there have been kids in the past that it was a struggle. It was a battle to keep their confidence up and to keep them pushing forward.
Good news for you guys, you got 2 consecutive matches at home. And for Javelina fans, be sure to mark your calendar. Again, Javelina volleyball will be at home on Friday against TWU at 6 p.m. and then they'll be home the next afternoon against DBU at the Spec. So hope to see all of you there on Friday and on Saturday. What are the things you guys need to be prepared for this weekend?
In general, we're focusing a lot on our own side of the net. Based on this past weekend, we learned a lot about ourselves and what we're struggling with and when we make errors. So this week we're going to do a lot of preparation on our side of the net, fixing some footwork issues, seeing the court a little bit better, transition a little bit better, things that will make us perform at a higher level. And then, the two teams are kind of different for Friday and Saturday, but I think in general, if we handle things on our side of the net, the game just gets better. It just gets more competitive.
I know we talked about this before, but you mentioned you have two teams coming in that play differently, that play different styles, but how much more important does it make it to just make sure that you guys are kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, to making sure that you're prepared for the things you guys need to do well to execute on your side?
Yeah, the setup of the conference, playing back-to-back days, you don't really get to just isolate. You can't prepare for one group. So, during two-a-days, the beginning of the year, we really are trying to prep them for anything. You just don't know what's going to be thrown at you in a matter of 24 hours, so we have to try to prepare them for anything, and then we can just make tweaks as we're recognizing things within the game, whether we have to step out or whether we need to commit to middles or whether we're a wider base, or, just so they understand concepts that we can make switches on the fly to adjust to whatever the opponent is doing.
All right, well, Coach Allen, best of luck this weekend. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And again, Javelina fans, don't forget Javelina volleyball at home on Friday night against Texas Women's and on Saturday afternoon against DBU. We hope to have all of you there for both contests. We'll take a break here on the Javelina Coaches Show. We'll be right back with our head football coach, Michael Salinas, so don't go away. Episode 5 of the Javelina Coaches Show here during the 2021-22 season, and we are joined by our next guest. That is our head Javelina football coach, Michael Salinas. Coach, welcome back.
Thanks, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I think it was kind of a strange feeling for a lot of us on Saturday not to have a Javelina football game to get geared up for, but we're back to a game week where you guys are going to be heading to Midwestern State to play the MSU Mustangs on Saturday. What were the things, well, obviously you come off of an open week. Do you feel like your team got better over the course of the last week?
I do. Anytime you get to open, it's good and it can be bad, but I think our guys attacked it the right way. I think we had the right mindset. We were able to heal up a little bit and, again, get a head start on Midwestern, but more importantly, fix ourselves in the process.
I know you gave your team some time off during the course of this week, and I think most coaches, they want to see a team that's re-energized when they come back after a day off. Do you feel like you saw that from your squad?
I think we did. So looking forward to today and putting together a good week of practice and preparation headed to Wichita Falls.
Obviously, this is a top-notch Midwestern State team that they've put together. What do you guys need to be prepared for this week?
Coach Maskell's done it for a long time. He's been a staple in this league for a number of years. They have a really good football team. They've proven that to this point. But in the Lone Star Conference, I think any team can get beat any Saturday. So we just have to make sure that we do a great job preparing this week, approach it the right way, and then get up there and be able to give our best effort on Saturday.
This is one of two teams that you guys had the opportunity to play in the spring. And obviously, I mean, your team is different than it looked in the spring, and their team is different than it looked when you guys went up there the first time a few months ago. But do you feel like you learned anything from the first trip you guys had up to Wichita Falls? Yeah,
I think we did. And in the process of getting to Wichita Falls and the trip, I think our guys understand that to this point. In terms of their team and the guys on their team and what we're preparing for. Playing them in the spring, I think, helps us to have an idea of where we're at and what we have to do to be successful on Saturday.
One of the reasons for their success is they have a really good quarterback who can make yards with his legs and has a great arm, can do a lot of things, and has done a lot of things for them this week over the course of this season. How do you guys try and put together a defensive game plan that can be successful against both their quarterback and their offense as a whole?
I think anytime you play a quarterback that's having a good year and playing well, and offensively they're averaging a little over 400 yards a game, so they're doing a good job throwing it and running it. We got to make those guys uncomfortable. We got to stop what they do best and force them to beat us left-handed. How
happy have you been with the competition you've seen from your quarterbacks over the course of the last week and change?
Again, I think I talked about those guys a couple weeks ago, but they've done a good job feeding off each other. Again, I think it's an unselfish group, an unselfish room. But Zadok came in last week and did a good job, and so looking forward to seeing both of them on the field this Saturday.
What will be the main objectives for your team to try and achieve when you guys play Midwestern State, to try and put together a successful game plan and try and get a victory?
Well, we got to play well in all three phases of the game. We got to make a difference on special teams. Defensively, we got to eliminate the big play. We got to make these guys drive the ball down the field. They've got 13 turnovers up to this point. Midwestern has turned the ball over 13 times, so creating a few turnovers will not hurt us. And then offensively, we have to sustain drives and play better in the red zone.
You guys have had a little bit of an up and down season as far as special teams. You've had plenty of good. We can go back to the first game, to Craig Clemens' punt return that set up a touchdown for you guys. We go back to the Eastern game. Gilbert Garza had 2 40-yard field goals, and I know we talked about this after the Eastern New Mexico game, and then you guys had 1 or 2 breakdowns against Commerce. But how happy have you been with what you've seen from your special teams? How do they continue to get better?
We're going to continue to progress. The toughest thing on specials is you got to get the right people in the right places as fast as possible. So we got to continue to make sure that we got the right guys in the right place. We got to get better, and we can't afford to have any letdowns on special teams.
All right, well, Coach, we'll see you in Wichita Falls. Best of luck this week. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll take one more break on the Javelina Coaches Show. We will be back in a moment. Welcome back to episode 5 of the Javelina Coaches Show, and we're joined by our newest guest, and that is track and field and cross country assistant coach Aared Sampson. Hello, Aared. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Now, you guys are almost through with your cross country regular season, but you have one more event on the docket. You guys will be in San Antonio coming up. What are the things? How would you assess what you've seen from your runners so far in the cross country season?
It's been very good, I think. We're a very young team, and they're making really good improvements. With cross country, you usually can't compare times from each course because the courses are different. We went to San Antonio a couple weeks ago, and it was a very hilly course, so the times were a lot slower. But you can compare your times with your teammates and then other teams that you've raced before. So as I kind of compare those times, we're definitely improving, and even in practice, they're improving quite a bit. So having a young group, but they're dedicated and they're improving. So excited.
Yeah, when you have one of the most important things when you have a young team is you want to make sure you're seeing improvement, that people aren't just satisfied or kind of stagnating. What are the things that you've seen? What are the things that your runners have been doing to try and improve and make sure that they've gotten better week to week?
Well, one thing that we do is in the morning is we kind of have a motivational moment. I assign everybody a day to give a motivational thought, and most of the time everybody has a central theme, and it's seize the day. Today's the day. Let's get it done today. Let tomorrow take care of itself. And I mean, each thought's kind of different, but it has that central theme, and I think that kind of embodies of their mentality of let's work hard today, get done what we need to, and that's how we make the progress.
How did you, or what did you draw on to when you came up with that idea? What were the things that you drew on that let you know that would be something that would help this team get better and improve?
You know, there's something we just started doing this year, and we practice at 6 a.m. And so sometimes it's dark, and you're sitting there, you're like, you just woke up, and I thought, you know, we need something to get us a little bit more excited for the workouts and to get going, and that just kind of came to me, and I've really enjoyed it. I think they enjoy it too because they get to come up with something. Most of the time they're thinking of something that's motivated them in the past, and they get to share that. And it's been a good experience.
And what are the things that you want to see from your team in San Antonio this week to let you know that they're prepared, they're getting ready, they're getting better, and they'll be ready when the conference meet comes a few weeks later?
So we talked about this yesterday in one of our meetings, that, and I stress it all the time, is just competitiveness. Compete, compete, compete. And we have probably, and I say this, and most sports probably say this too, but cross-country distance running is the hardest sport there is. And because what you're doing is you're taking your body and your mind to the limit. How far, how long can I hold the fastest pace possible? And it takes every ounce of mental focus, every ounce of strength that you have to keep it going. And when somebody starts pulling away, you're challenged. And you want to kind of say, just get to the finish line, I'll let them go. You know, and so it's very hard, physically and mentally. And so I just have been stressing, we want to compete. So when someone's pulling away, we break the, I say the same things to them all the time. Break the race down. We're not going to race an 8K, guys. We're racing the first mile. And so you race those guys to that mile marker. And then it's another mile. Race them to the next mile. Whatever happens, let the end take care of itself. But we're going to compete right here, right now, in the moment. And if it's passing this group to get to the next group, that's what we need to do. So you need to compete right here. And when you're racing competitors and you're really in that competitive zone, fast times happen. And so I usually try not to have them think about times and the clock and things like that. I want them to race people. And when you race people, fast times happen.
Who are the runners who have impressed you the most so far this year?
So Odette's a freshman. She's been our #1 runner. She's been impressive on in two kind of ways. One way, she had COVID. The first week of practice, she got COVID. And so she was quarantined for 10 days. Stuck in the dorm for 10 days. No, I think they finally let them out after 7 to do a little bit of walking around and exercise, and so she went on a run. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as she's cleared and tested and she was all good, she didn't miss a beat. She just kept working hard. So she's a really hard worker in that aspect. And then she said something to me the other day that usually distance runners, even distance runners kind of shy away from this sometimes, is she said, I think I want to do the 10K. Going up in distance, that's a scary distance, you know, especially from somebody come from a small school where they raced a 2-mile, and now for cross country they race a 6K, which is just about 4 miles. So they double the distance, and now she's like, oh, I want to go even farther and race a harder distance. So she's got a mentality of bring it on, and so that's pretty impressive.
What are the things your team needs to do to be prepared and to be successful when you guys arrive at the Lone Star Conference Championship?
I think the #1 thing is to be able to work hard in the second mile. So everybody can run the first mile hard, you know, and that usually happens. It's a conference meet. Everybody gets out fast, but then people kind of get scared. You're like, oh no, we just went out real fast. Maybe I should slow it down a little bit. And so that's really where the race starts. The race starts after that mile, and you got to be like, all right, let's go. Stay with this group, and let's pass a couple people. Let's get going, and that's that competitive spirit that I've been talking about. That first mile is super easy, even though it goes out fast. Everybody went out fast. So you just need to get focused, get competitive, and if we can do that, you know, work real hard in that second mile, that third mile, and I tell them all the time, if we really die off in the end, in the last, I'm okay with it, because we're competing in the middle where it's hard, and then, you know, the training will kick in and help you through that last little bit.
All right, well, Coach Sampson, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck both in San Antonio and at the LSC meet. Appreciate you stopping by.
All right, thank you.
And appreciate everyone for tuning in to the 5th episode of the Javelina Coaches Show. A thank you to our other guests, Tanya Allen and Michael Salinas. Be sure to subscribe to Javelina Athletics so you can catch every episode of the Javelina Coaches Show each week. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again for episode 6 next week.